The Californian public voted to pass Proposition 187 on November 9, 1994, during a time of recession. During this time, immigrants were viewed as the ones who would cause this economic crisis, arguing that these immigrants put a strain on social services and made wages lower. The policies support this fact, as it disallowed immigrants to use social services, which included education and healthcare, as well as the teachers and healthcare workers being forced to report anyone who was suspected of being an immigrant, which also came with little guidelines on who's to suspect as an immigrant. This is important as it led to many assumptions to be based on the physical appearance or race of people. When this bill passed, people were obviously outraged. This was protested, with as many as 250,000 people attending a protest to draw attention to the deportations that the INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Services, have been committing, as well as the effects that has on families with immigrants. Different groups that fight for immigrants' rights, such as the Coalition for Humane Immigrants' Rights of Los Angeles and the American Civil Liberties Union, challenged the proposition as well, claiming that it was a federal rather than a state issue, as well as violating the Plyer versus Doe case that entitled all children to have access to public education regardless of their citizenship status. There were many legal disputes from this proposition, which ultimately ended when the state couldn't enact the proposition for violating the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment that protected any individual regardless of citizenship status.
I don't like it because I grew up, always helping my mom, always helping my parents when it came to like healthcare and the appointments and stuff like that. And so I see how many families need it, benefit from it, and for that to be taken away just because you weren't born here, like it sucks.
They did a lot of things that I guess it made companies check backgrounds for workers. Anybody who hired an immigrant was considered a criminal as well, and also I think was prosecuted by law. And so they made a lot of barriers for a lot of immigrant communities for them to apply for work or even kind of be able to work here in California. It was very anti-immigrant, especially during that governor's time. And it just made it just very hard, very difficult for immigrant communities to prosper or get any jobs or any kind of work permits or something.
We can see how racial profiling is a big part, with ICE continuing raids in mostly Latino communities, and people reporting that they were taken, even though they were U.S. citizens. There is also lots of fear of being taken at all, with many people having uncertainty because of the impermanence of their immigration status and the threat of deportation, as well as the restricted access of public services with laws and policies that can limit access to education, health insurance, food assistance, employment, preventive health care, and public health services.
I personally think that there should not be any ICE deportations. I think that ICE should be dismantled. ICE came here and was established in 2003. So I think there's a time that we can see before. If we can see a time before ICE, there can be a time after ICE. And so I think that's one part. I think it's another part of tackling down the stereotypes there is about immigrants and kind of the negative connotations that's put on them, because some people say that they're stealing our jobs, and I think that's kind of racism that comes from very early on California history. If we see that in what happened in downtown. They use the same language when the Chinese were building the railroads, or to Latinos when they were coming in as braceros for farm working. So I think once we start also breaking down that stigma in the community, I think that's when we can have real change.
The most that I could think of would be like to just do protests against it. But other than that, I think that we should just, as a community, try to go against it and like try to stop bias as much as we possibly could. Yeah.
There are ways that we can fight back against the ICE raids and immigration legislation that have also been used to fight against Proposition 187. We first need to realize that immigrants are not the enemy, and we need to be educated on how immigrants actually affect us. Another action that you can take is protesting and letting your voice be heard, as is one of your constitutional rights, which cannot be taken from you by any form of U.S. government. Protests can influence the decisions of lawmakers, which means that people can voice the need for better immigration legislation. We can fight for things like easier pathways towards citizenship and letting immigrants help to benefit our country. In conclusion, history is very relevant to our time as it tends to imitate itself. We need to learn to appreciate all the people in this country and eliminate all hateful prejudice. In the end, we're all human.